that's the only way that I'm introing this show. It's just a big, deep sigh. It's League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. I don't know if you noticed, but there were some games. There were some games on the Rift for Group A action. That's the only intro I got.
There absolutely were, and you know what? Group A action. It's the week 2. I know, a little bit, a couple day week.
One
2
day off. Yeah.
of the group stage. You can see it here. We got the Team Liquid sweater on. We got the Cloud9 headset on. We got NA. I don't have it. It's A, too expensive, and B, too limited. Nate shot. You got to work on that. But hey, we're supporting NA at League Unlocked.
It's a full blue ensemble. The 100 Thieves clashes with the blue, so that's why we're going for that. Yeah, I mean, today, listen, 1.56% chance Cloud9 had of getting out of group. So I'm just going to get that out the way. People are going to know how this day played out. We will get to the insane tiebreaker. It feels wild to even go back to the start of the day because it feels like it was 2 weeks ago.
Feels like 2 whole separate days, my man. Everything that happens before you get to Cloud9 and Damwon to finish off the round robin, and then obviously everything with the tiebreakers that we'll get towards. But man, this was, as we talked about before, the reason why it is such a difference when you get to these round robin days. You're playing everybody. It's all going to be settled out. Anything, and I mean anything, is possible on these type of days.
And remember, after that first week, you and I both sat here and we were like, I just feel like there hasn't been crazy upsets. There hasn't been that much craziness or these wild plays, wild games. Okay, we summoned it because it happened. Day 1 of week 2.
It's a simple, I'm going to say it's a coding mistake. Someone looked at it and they said, it's 0.0 where it's supposed to be 1.0. That's the problem there. You had to turn on the number to get the data going for these upsets. And man, there was no shortage of it on the day.
If coding issues, I think they coded the entire FPX lineup wrong. They forgot to tinker some of those numbers. Believe it or not, the day actually started with Damwon versus FPX, and this was kind of looking at the schedule. It was like, okay, this first game is like, okay, are the games really going to be meaningful to play out the rest of the entire day?
Yeah, it was obviously the question of whether it was going to be a day about who was going to get out of this group first, FPX or Damwon, whether FPX was going to have that surge, Dwayne B saying, we're not dropping any more games. It might have been an asterisk.
I think that was a mistranslated interview now. Missed one
coding.
word. Yeah,
had to be wrong there on it because absolutely Damwon right from the very get-go shows us that they are, and at the end of the day, the complete champions of Group A.
And this was the game finally we get to see doing beyond Irelia. It's not this Malzahar, it's not the Galio, the guy who he had a highlight reel in itself in the summer split on this pick. Unfortunately, he's going up against a Poppy that just knocks him out of fights, so he can't do anything.
And this is where you need to actually have some of these, critical discussions about FPX, Dwayne B, these type of things. You look at the statistics. You look at Dwayne B's Aurelia back in the LPL. You're talking about something like a 40 KDA heading towards this event. And then, yes, there is the other side of that coin, which is the drafting. These type of mistakes that have come through from the drafts of FPX. And I tell you what, I'm not a fan. LS is not a fan. And I bet you your average Redditor's not a fan of these drafts coming through from FPX.
Damwon was a fan because they got the win to go to 4-0 in this group. Then we had the NA versus EU rivalry part 1 on the day. Again, spoilers. This is the 0-3 Cloud9. Remember, coming into this day, we were like, at least pick up a win so they're not going 0-6 again, right?
We were hoping that we were getting this win, the win against Rogue. Not just about keeping your hopes alive, keeping the day interesting, but as you said, an 0-3 heading into the day, looking just for any sliver of sunlight for the Cloud9 fan base. Got a full dose of that healthy vitamin W for the win from Cloud9 against Rogue in this early NA-EU matchup.
You had this level 1 red buff invade that goes a bit of a disaster for Rogue. That kind of gets things rolling for Cloud9. You even had a staple blabber suicide under turret. Just walks in, takes 2 turret shots, does nothing and dies. And they still bounce back from that.
You know what? It was an overall strong performance from Cloud9, relatively controlled after, of course, a couple of mistakes here and there. But it was the type of performance that you could look at and say you have more confidence moving forward. I know any type of win would do that, but especially in the way they did it against Rogue, you saw the glimpses on the day. And the big one for me is the confidence that you saw a player like Perkz playing within the mid lane. We always talk about how monumentally important it is that Perkz is playing well. They're getting value out of that acquisition, Cloud9. You saw it full on throughout the course of the day, and especially in this game, that confidence making such a difference in the type of opportunities that he's taking.
Yeah, they looked like the team from the first day or so of play-ins, where they were confident, they were being aggressive, they were dominating on the Rift. So that's why you saw this version of them against Rogue and we're kind of like, man, we needed this in the first week, some of that action. But that got things rolling for them to go into the second matchup against Fun Plus Phoenix. And 2-2 FPX, you were just still fully waiting for the beast to awaken and emerge from the cave and take over. But it was Blabber again, and specifically Blabber and Vulcan in this game, just completely roaming around the map and dominating wherever they showed up.
And they were on the same page, the same wavelength from the brain. That was the big one in the difference maker and how they were performing. And especially you look at this group, you're talking about the jungle performances. Blabber on the day was unreal. At the exact opposite end of the spectrum has been Tian's performances throughout the entirety of this group stage. It really has been, puzzling to see him struggle so much. And, a lot of the things with FPX comes back to some people looking at, maybe they don't have the meta read quite right. My man's got a Lee Sin World Championship skin. There's nothing wrong with playing Lee Sin right now in this jungle meta. Absolutely, I think there's not a lot of excuses that can be made for the poor showing from Tian specifically.
And the Jarvan is something that, usually we've had a negative opinion of when anyone else is picking it. It's something, we saw Closer play and we're like, get him off that Jarvan. The Rumble mid for Doinb, it's not 2019. That's it.
Yeah. I was not a fan of that one, and I love Doinb. I love the wacky picks. I love the wacky builds. That was a situation where you looked at what was coming through from Cloud9. You looked at what FPX needed and how things have been going for FPX, and I don't think it was the time to gamble on a Rumble, to go for that strategy. As you said, it's not 2019. You saw it completely dismantled and rendered useless in a lot of situations in this matchup.
And, the Tristana pick for Sven, something we haven't seen much of. This World's actually worked out pretty well for them. Obviously, getting first blood helped get things rolling for him. And 0-0 and 14. That's a double 007 agent for Perkz on the Twisted Fate in this matchup.
Hey, I like that adaptation. That's a big one for me from Cloud9, realizing that, this Twisted Fate, there was a reason why it was banned away from someone like Perkz during a lot of the time of the LCS. This ability to get out to the other lanes and be Perkz there is certainly something that paid major dividends for Cloud9.
And obviously carrying that momentum into their next match, which we'll get to later. But it was then Rogue and Damwon back on the Rift after that. So 0-2 start for FPX at this point. Damwon still sitting pretty at 4-0. Rogue, hoping to get in the thick of things fully with a win against Damwon here. But for all the madness that was going on today, Damwon was having none of it. None of it.
They are the steady presence in the eye of the storm that was Group A today. And there is nothing more stable right now than the performances in the mid lane from Showmaker. Oh my God.
But he died in this game. Ugh.
He did? Yes. We lose the unkillable part for Showmaker, but my man, he is still overwhelmingly better than any of his counterparts that he's coming up against in lane. And then his effect later on in the game, it is unreal what Showmaker has been able to do. It's been a long time since we get to talk about individual players performing at such an individually exceptional level.
And a couple of AD carry standouts also in this game, because you have Ghost not only picking Hansama's signature pick against him in that Draven, but Ghost looks super clean on it and was the main carry threat for the first chunk of the game until he gets caught out, and then in the most glorious of fashion, we get Khan playing the Xiaohu special, Lucian top, grabbing the first pentakill at the World Championship. He even had to TP in to go and get it.
Feels good, my man. There's been a lot of stories feeling good about this kind of swan song for Khan at this World Championship, what it's meant this run with Damwon this year. Capping it off, getting that pentakill at Worlds, feeling good for Khan. This is one of the best stories going on right now at this World Championship event.
So 5-0 start for the defending world champions. Rogue, a couple of losses to start off the day, so they're sitting at 1-4. Tournament lives now on the line against FPX in the next matchup. And this is where you saw the madness start happening, because it was, okay, Rogue wins this, potentially have a 3-way tiebreaker. If they lose this, then Cloud9 has to win against Damwon to force a tiebreaker against FPX. But little did we know what version of FPX was going to be showing up on the Rift today.
And unfortunately for the OPL fans, it's the exact same FPX that we've been getting throughout this group stage. The one that is not good enough is what we have been seeing from FPX. And thankfully for North American fans, for EU fans, Western fans, it doesn't matter. Rogue had a special champion dialed up for us. It is the beautiful Fiddlesticks. Yes, sir, the Fiddlesticks in the jungle for Inspired. We talked about it, the way that he was able to pop off and get that crazy one in the LEC back in the summer split. Hey, you saw shades of it now on the world stage against FPX. Inspired and Rogue come up with a massive victory to keep things wild in Group A.
And listen, Fiddlesticks is one of the most creative champions in the game, because so much of it is finding that flanking angle and just avoiding vision at all costs. And there's a reason Inspired is so good at the pick. He is slicing and dicing through the narrowest of windows of vision to get through and get some of these flanks off. And there were a couple of them that, yeah, absolutely turned this game around in the favor of Rogue to keep the tournament alive.
It's one of those ones where, if you're on the other side, you're playing with your friends, you keep going and, maybe get toxic, yelling out, how does this guy keep escaping our vision? How do we not know where he's always flanking from? And then you go back and watch the replays and you're like, well, of course, how the hell were we going to spot this guy out? He's too good. That's what Inspired was doing on that Fiddlesticks. And yes, important to get those flanks off, but to make sure you have the coordination and communication with your team, that there's some type of follow-up. Because you know what? How many times do you see in your ARAMs, in your normal games, a Fiddlestick go in and there was no one behind, there was no extra damage coming through, there was no follow-up. Rogue made sure there was the follow-up, and that follow-up is that their dreams at Worlds is still alive.
Yeah, they keep their tournament alive, and it's a 0-3 start. 0-3 start for FPX on the day, which literally no one in this solar system would have predicted would happen on this day. And that's set up for the last official, on the schedule game, C9 versus Damwon. Now Cloud9, it's win and you're in. They beat, all you have to do is defeat the defending world champions who are currently undefeated in the group stage, and you're going to quarterfinals. And this, you saw everybody tweeting about, hey, maybe Damwon should throw this game a little bit so that FPX doesn't get to knockouts. Maybe, Cloud9 you'd still rather have than FPX. Damwon seemed to take this game even more seriously than any of the other games.
It's almost incredible to think and realize that when you're watching this game, I think they were try-harding more than they did at any other game during this group stage to try and deny.
They wanted the 6-0.
Hey, my man, they wanted to make sure that it wasn't going through. And you know what? Kudos to Damwon, the effort that you saw from Khan in the top side. And, of course, the Kassadin Showmaker in the middle lane. That
4 bans, Adam. 4 bans take the TF.
Yeah, look, you know what? There is no other way than to just say, look at the record, my man. 6-0, clean performances from Damwon, and it doesn't stop in this game. Yes, Cloud9 were aggressive. They pushed a lot of opportunities.
It was a close game for most of it.
They played well. The problem is that Damwon played even better, and well, you don't even really want to say Damwon. You want to say Showmaker and Khan. played better, the way that they were able to perform 1v4, 1v3, turning it around. There was just nothing that Cloud9 could throw their way to take down the reigning champions.
Well, the Kassadin hidden passive is when you hit level 16, you win the game. So they forgot to read that little tooltip. They forgot to call high and say, should we ban Kassadin at Worlds? Is he going to be a problem? 8 years later, that still becomes a thing. The biggest issue and the biggest game-changing team fight is the double stopwatch, Mark. The double stopwatch on the Kassadin. You got to change that. You shouldn't be able to have two. It's too disgusting.
There's been other times where we've seen this with other champions to other degrees, us talking about the double stopwatch and how unfair it can feel. There's one thing about having stopwatch and having Zhonya's and pairing them together, and how everyone feels about having one thing go wrong into one stop, but then to be able to do it again, I don't think it's healthy for the game.
It covers up mistakes too easily.
It's too much. It's giving too much away and giving too much freedom on the player's side to be disrespectful.
So first 6-0 of the group, Damwon obviously easily takes that first seed, and with the loss, Cloud9's 2-game win streak comes to an end. But what the real dream is, we got the tiebreakers, and it's 2017 all over again. You got a 0-3 squad coming back from the brinks, and it is a 3-way tiebreaker because Cloud9 had the shortest game time overall in their wins of the 3. They end up being the final boss, and you know what? Fair enough. They looked like the best team on the day heading into these tiebreakers, which means for their tournament lives, you had Rogue versus FPX in that first round, something we never thought we would be seeing. And the EU faithful, they come up strong. Even with Tien, you talk about all these things not being meta, he's not comfortable with. He gets the Viego, which I know has been nerfed, but he was 12-1 on it in this split, and that was far and away his best champion, and still not enough for FPX.
Still not enough, and you know what? The biggest misfortune is when you look at this event, sure, you can nitpick on a lot of things, but when it mattered most, all 5 members didn't get it done for FPX. You're looking in the top lane. Nuguri didn't have his best performance. Tien, we've talked about, Doing B was not the same dominant mid laner that we had been seeing him be to a peak level this year in the LPL. Did not translate onto the international stage. And then even in the bottom lane, you're looking at some of the plays that Chris was getting off were good, but even as a 2v2, they were losing a lot of advantages over to the other side, and it just was not at all at a championship level from FPX, and a very deserved early exit from this event.
It really makes you appreciate teams like Damwon now, who always have this hype and perform on the international stage, like T1, who have, I don't think they've ever finished below first in a group. Like, getting out of groups, not getting out of groups for T1 ever is like unthinkable. I say that, and now, of course, they're not going to get out in Group B this year. But this is instantly number 1 on the rankings for most disappointing Worlds performance of all time. I don't care about 0-6 TSM. This was the team that everyone had as the favorites, not to dominate their group, to win the entire event. Doin B was the number 1 mid laner on everybody's ranking, and to finish 2-4, or lose 4 games in a row on your last day of the group stage is absolutely insane.
Yep, without a doubt, to me, this is the most disappointing Worlds performance ever by any team. You 0-6 TSM, 2015, LGD, whatever you want. I think that this one takes the cake, given the expectations, given what we had seen and been proven right on with FPX through the course of the year. You're talking about, man, 8 LPL final games. This is like insane to think that this is a team that gets ousted at this point in this event. But this is where we're at. This disappointment, the expectations, it don't match up.
If you're going to 2017, when this Miracle Fnatic run happens, okay, Cloud9 is the role of Fnatic in this situation. Do you know who Fun Plus Phoenix is? They're Immortals. They had to win a single game on the day, and FPX are role-playing Immortals for the worst reason possible.
And let me tell you what, you don't need to take a time machine to know that Immortals was not a top 3 tournament favorite. At that point, the way that FPX is arguably in that top 2, top 3 for a lot of people heading towards this event. This disappointment is absolutely on an unbelievable magnitude right now, and it's one that you have to be thinking about the future for FPX, everything that they made, the changes for this year, bringing in Nuggery and how it looked and how it paid off in the LPL. What's your response? What's this roster's response? My biggest concern right now, and I really hope it's proven wrong, I really hope Dwayne B does not retire after this, because
it's to have your sour legacy, note to leave on. Oh,
to have it soured in this type of way, and to know that you have so much still to offer and to provide and prove to people. This is not the time for it, and would really be a sad ending to what has been such a fun and jubilant career.
And, you know, we might be harsh, as most people are going to be on FPX. The Chinese community is going to be absolutely merciless to a team that was as big favorites as them.
And look, there's a time for that, right? There's a time and a place to have your criticism, to be angry, to be upset, all these type of things into varying degrees, sure. I just hope a lot of people's cooler heads kind of prevail right now and realize there's probably more constructive ways to provide that criticism and feedback towards FPX. And you know what? Immediately after some type of disappointment like this might not be the best time.
So the positive side of things, again, Hans Sama was fantastic in that first tiebreaker game. Again, 8-0-6 on Misfortune, grabs a quadra kill. The reason I highlight him is because we get the NA versus EU rivalry. The tiebreaker to advance to quarterfinals, something we've seen happen countless times, and NA never wins. 2-8 in tiebreakers on the international stage. The LEC 10-3. Hans Sama gets focused in this ban phase immediately, but seeing him on the Jhin immediately, I was like, this is the opposite of the type of champion I want to see Hans Sama on. Especially with how well he's playing.
The way he's playing, this is not the champion that fits his style. Certainly, able to perform well enough and know what he's doing on it. But that's the thing, is when you're talking about neutralizing a player, that's really what those bans did. It prevented Hans Sama from being a major impact player in this game. He was relegated to that Jhin to be on much more of a supportive damage type of role, to be the one following up on, W for CC, starting some of those ultimates to either slow or get a bit of damage down. Not the same way that when you're talking about Hans Sama on any of those other champions, dominating and dishing out the DPS in those team fights. It's not there when you're playing Jhin.
And you're right, he played perfectly fine on the pick, but you can only do so much on more of an artillery CC type of AD carry. This game was absolutely nutty, and I think immediately you saw, I think more so than it being the highest quality game, there were some great moments for sure. It's just the sheer stakes of the game. Your entire season now comes down to a single game, and it happens to be EU versus NA. Both teams were definitely tentative throughout the series. Perks wasn't tentative at all. I'll say that. The amount of times that you're saying, "Oh, Perks, you just cost NA, go back to EU," and then he has a play that kind of puts you ahead, or is game breaking. You're like, NA born, Perks is our favorite. But both teams were definitely a little more hesitant than we were accustomed to seeing.
You saw that for sure in the early game. The lack of opportunities, lack of chances taken by a lot of these teams, and especially when you're looking at Cloud9 and you compare it to the way that they played against Damwon, the aggression that they had early in that game to try and get ahead, try and put Showmaker behind. Those type of plays, that type of bravado was not there for the start of this game. As you said, the stakes so unbelievably high for both of these teams. The one player that was playing like it was just any other game, trying to do his best, was Perks. And as you said, yes, there were the downsides, the times, 2 or 3 times that you go, man, why? Question mark ping all over the place, whatever. I wouldn't pay you 11 cents to play League of Legends, let alone an $11 million transfer. But then, as you said, you see these moments where he is not afraid to pull the trigger. And that's the one I want to talk about with Perks. There's a lot of players that can be skilled, can be talented, but they'll shy away from taking these type of risks. And love it or hate it, Perks is one of those players that will always bet on himself and take that risk. And you know what? I tell you what, you could pick any other mid laner from the LCS, past, present, whatever. You're not winning that game with them. Perks is the difference maker, and he is the reason his attitude, his play style is why this Cloud9 team is able to push over the edge. There's other factors, and we got to give them praise and talk about them too. But the biggest one for me is that difference in in Perkz and his lack of hesitation in these clutch moments.
And hesitation on the opposite end of the spectrum is going to be the main criticism against Rogue, because not once but twice you're talking about a 5v4, 5v3 advantage, and they take a little while to start Baron, but they start the Baron, they get it below half, and then they kind of peel off at least one of those. You got to pull the trigger and just go for it.
And completely unacceptable, inexcusable for me from Rogue in those situations to have that type of advantage in your favor, 5v3, whatever you want to talk, but to have that objective up for grabs in that situation and to not pull the trigger is so unbelievably frustrating and questionable, especially for a team like Rogue that has been either number 1 or number 2 in the LEC for the past couple of years. And not just that, who they've had to go up against and compete against in the LEC. You're talking about G2, Fnatic always pulling the trigger. You're looking at those two teams and you haven't learned anything from their success in prior runs to go, hey, 5v3 matters the most. This is the time to pull it off, to bet on ourselves, to bet on our numbers that we can do this. And yes, there's a difference between burger flipping at that point too. But come on.
That's not a 50-50 when it's a 5v3 like that, because Cloud9's going to have to be throwing themselves in a terrible situation that it immediately isn't a flip.
It just, the first time it happened, I'm screaming at them. The second time, I've just got my hands in my face. Yeah, it's unacceptable. And I want Cloud9 to be the winner. I want NA. But I want good performances all the way through. And to see that type of decision-making, that type of, shyness from being the one to take a risk, take that control, for Rogue, it just doubles down on all the disappointment that I've seen from Rogue and to want them to be at their very best.
Years of lives were taken off watching this game. Gray hairs were added to NA and EU fans collectively watching this one. There was a lot of very tense moments, obviously. The Vulcan was so close a couple of times to having some all-time great plays. If he lands that Pulverize on the Realm Warp mark, that instantly becomes one of the best plays in World's history.
He said it. Dude, if he hits that, that's a pentakill for Perkz within 0.3 seconds. It's an insta pop in, pop out. LeBlanc, see you later. My man, it would have been incredible. I think, yes, Vulcan did have a very good game and had some very important roles and the way that he played throughout this one. And simply to me, you talk about the differences between an FPX and a Cloud9. You're looking at all 5 members of Cloud9 stepping up on the day, betting on themselves and their own talent, betting on their teammates to be there, to bail them out, all these type of things. And you know what? I didn't see any of that coming through from all 5 players on FPX whatsoever in this group stage.
Again, the fact that it sounds like you mixed up the team names when you talk about it like that. At the end of the day, to have FPX is it's just mind-boggling. This is just day 1 of week 2, guys. So this now sets a precedent. We need absolute insanity across the other 3, right?
My man, the best thing about this is anybody that is sitting at 3rd or 4th in their group right now is to be getting motivated. I know it's very different, and you can't say, oh man, I think T1's going to have an FPX type of day. It's not that type of situation. But absolutely, you need to take a lesson from this and realize that if we can take care of our business, we can perform at our high level, things can happen on a round-robin day. It can happen just like that, and all of a sudden, different situations. You got to be prepared to be at your very best.
Ready for EDG to collapse, have T1 and 100 Thieves get out of Group B. I'm not
putting that curse on them, my man.
Every year it seems like an LPL team is cursed. Maybe this year EDG dodged the bullet and FPX ate it for them. That was the reward for winning the summer split. But this was supposed to be the simple group. It was obviously the furthest thing from it. First time since 2018. We're getting an LCS team into the top 8. Can't wait for them to get 3-0'd by whoever they match up against. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you on the Flippity Flip.